And we're live. Another episode of The Oddest Couple. I'm Felix Levine alongside the star of the show, John Alite. A quick reminder, if this is your first time watching our podcast, hit that subscribe button, like this episode, comment below, all that good stuff. We're also on Patreon. The link to our Patreon channel is in the description of this video. We post all our content on there early, bonus content, early access, questions you can ask John, you can call into the show. It's really a great place for all of our biggest and most loyal fans that have been following us for a couple years now, so we really appreciate your support, and go check that out. We also have a new vodka that we're promoting, Legacy 11 vodka, that we're partnering with. 11 times filtered, 11 times distilled, sugar-free, gluten-free. It's amazing. I've tasted it. It's delicious. We're really excited to be working with Legacy 11 vodka. It's in 39 states right now. It'll be in every state very shortly, so make sure you go check them out. Today, though, we have a very, very interesting episode, I think. Someone who we've talked about, I think, here and there over the past couple years, but really, I think, done a good job of not for a lot of different reasons. But I think in recent times has, spoken about you a fair bit. He apparently owes you some money. I think he calls himself something, and you have opinions about that, about what his role really was in the mob and what he really did or didn't do. So I think today is a great day for you to, for lack of a better word, expose and really tell the truth about who Sammy Gravano is. And a lot of people, follow him and watch him, but I think you have more insight than anybody else, really.
Well, the thing about Sammy is, he's famous for one reason. I mean, he's pretty famous. He's well known, and he's famous because he ratted on John Gotti. I mean, that's as simple as that. If it wasn't John Gotti that he spoke about, really, not too many people would know who he is. He gave up the father, and he came home and lived off that reputation of being John Gotti's whatever, downfall of John Gotti. I don't want to even use the word rat. I really don't care for that word one way or another. And I'm not saying it because the reason why I'm going to bring this out is because he's done a lot of talking. But from jail, he was with a friend of mine, Kevin Bonner. And Kevin grew up with me. And Kevin did about 25 years, I believe, total. And, guys will call guys rats and this and that and whatever. He did 25 years. He did give information against me. I got no hard feelings towards him or anybody else. I moved my life on. He held out. I got to tell you, so I'll tell you about Kevin. He held out. They hit him with a case. He held out. They hit him with another case. Hit him with a third case. Tried to hit him with a lifetime fourth case. Finally, he caved in. And he dropped the cards, and he goes, "That's it, I'm done." And I get it, and I got no hard feelings for him. I like him, but Kevin was straight up guy, nice guy, good looking guy, gangster, dressed well, and he was with Sammy. So Sammy knew a lot about me from being with Kevin all these years in Minnesota. Actually, they were at. So when he pretends he doesn't know me, there's the first lie. Or he doesn't know much about me. He knows a lot about me because my friend told him at the time that you don't know him, and if you ever spoke to him that way or tried anything with him that way, John would have killed you. That I would have killed him, he told. Now, when Sammy talks from prison, he knew I was friendly with his daughter, his family, and he asked his daughter to ask me, "Can I get him a lawyer?" Which I brought him to. Again, because we're talking about him all week because of the senator's case and the corruption, Doug Anton. Now, I brought him Doug Anton to be an attorney for him and also an attorney for his daughter, for Karen. And he worked their entertainment case and helped Sammy on some legal matters he had while he was in jail. So he reached out to me initially from jail. I never reached out to him. When he was on the street, John wanted to kill him. Now, he knows that. We had these conversations. I put some pictures out with me and him at Newark Airport at the time with a third guy that doesn't want to be involved with the life anymore. Was also a made guy. Was also at one time part of Sammy's crew. And another guy, little Joey, whose father, Spanky, also stayed with Sammy. And Joey was also friendly with me and was also a made guy with the Gambino family. So when he pretends that he doesn't know, this is the beginning of, he's building the foundation of being a liar. And he's a good liar. He's good at lying. And when he goes ahead and he tells his story, he doesn't start from the beginning. At the beginning of Sammy's career, he wasn't around gangsters. He had no money. He was broke. He was in his 20s. He had really very small affiliation when he was younger. He was running around with some guys and gang members and whatever they were doing. Yeah, okay. He did kid shit. It's not impressing anybody. We're all on the street. And actually, my friends as kids, I always said I wasn't wild, but my friends were. At 12, 13, 14 years old, these guys were killing already, committing murders. Not just robbing, but committing murders, all of them. So I was exposed to dangerous guys at a very young age, before anybody. I was exposed to the mob at 3 years old, to Blackie, Al Greco, and serious killers and gangsters like Charlie Luciano from my father. So I've been around them since a baby. Unlike him, he wasn't. Now, as time goes on, he gets involved with the Colombo family. So when people say to him, did he just come up from anywhere? He came up from the Colombo family, and the Colombo family chased him. They were contemplating killing him. And I think I spoke of this already. His friend, Louis Menino, brought him around. The Gambino family saved his life. So when Sammy's discussing things about how the structure of the Mafia works, I know better than him. He wasn't around till later on in life. I was around since I'm a kid.
My question is, very flat out, is Sammy Gravano a fraud?
100%. He's a fraud. And guys, Joey DeChico, that's Frankie DeChico's brother, they call him Butter, did a video about that, during the trials. He called him every name in the book in a video, and he called him out. He said the guy's a fraud. And he really is a fraud. I mean, he's somewhat of a gangster, don't get me wrong.
Like what? Okay, so let's, because I think it's important, right? We don't want to do this. We're not here to just say one thing without backing it up, right? I guess, how is he a gangster? How is he not? And where is like the fraud part, right?
When you're talking about a gangster, I'm talking about what we said on the other show about Lucky Luciano. That's a well-dressed guy, right? Carries himself well. I'm going to start from each section. Sammy isn't a well-dressed guy, and he wasn't well-spoken. He wasn't very educated, and he's not a well-dressed guy, too. He's not a guy that you can bring around and you can sit down with legitimate businessmen with class, and I'm talking about CEOs and people that are in marketing or in different places, because the ignorance and the way he carries himself will come out. He'll eat with his hands. He just isn't. He's not a sharp, dignified, guy. He's just not. It's just not his thing, right? He grew up, a little dumb, I guess. Is not educated. He's not well traveled around the world, right? So I'll talk about guys that travel around the world, and he's not one of them. So there's things, right, that's typical that you can see that he's not, a sharp guy that way. Okay. Now, is he a guy that is soft-spoken and businesslike? And, there's a million guys. Like, we'll use Tommy Gambino. I'm going to use some of the guys that was very soft-spoken, very intelligent business guy. Carried himself like a gentleman. No, he's not in that category. Now, the next category, is he a thug? Personally, no. Did he align himself with guys that were tough guys like Frankie DeChico? Yes. Did he understand the street to maneuver himself near these guys? Yes. But is he personally a shooter? Absolutely not. Since he's a kid, he's not.
So I'm not personally familiar, so I don't want to say that I am with how many people he said he's, hurt. Have you heard the numbers that he throws out?
Here's what I'm going to tell you. He's a small guy. you see pictures with me. So he's not going to physically hurt too many guys, and he's not qualified as a UFC fighter. He boxed a little bit. He says, "I seen him. I'm not very impressed." Over the years, I'm talking about Teddy Atlas said that he sucks with his hands. Who's one of the greatest trainers around that's knowledgeable in the boxing business. I stayed with Bobby Ches, 3-time champ. I stayed with Jerry Cooney. I stayed with
5'5".
Prince Badi. That's exaggerating his height. I got a picture next to me and him, and I look like I'm 6'2" next to him, and I'm 5'8". So, and we'll put that picture up. But so these qualifications he just doesn't have. Does he know a lot of guys? Yeah. But when the guy doesn't, like when he talks about gas pipe, and I'm going to give you some things and we could cover it. And he says gas pipe was a dummy, he's full of shit. He was petrified of gas pipe and Vicamuso. And not that I'm just saying that, but they killed all our guys and we didn't retribute. So I want to know what his answer to that is. You understand? Like, if you're going to talk that you were this killer and you're good at it and you're talking this smack, then why didn't you retaliate any of the murders of our guys?
Okay. What do you think Sammy was, or what was he good at?
He's a good bullshit artist. I mean that. No, he knew how to bullshit his way to construction industry. He knew.
So what do you mean by that? Like, explain what would that look like?
Well, he opened up construction companies, right? John wasn't a businessman, John Gotti Sr. He'll say it himself. He was just through and through a gangster. He went on the street. He didn't care about money. He really didn't. I can tell you all the good qualities of John. Because Sammy didn't grow up or know John. He didn't even know him until, 82 or 83. He met him once or twice. So before the hit of Castellano, he didn't even know the guy. John did not know Sammy like that. Sammy did not sleep in John Gotti's house. I did. He didn't grow up in that family's household. I did. John Sr. never trusted him. He didn't have any kind of real trust of the guy. He trusted Frankie DeChico. He trusted Georgie DeChico, his brother. He trusted and loved Joey DeChico, who we call Butter. That's John's loyalty was there. Sammy implemented himself in that storyline. So later on, when Castellano gets hit, and he doesn't stop talking about it because that's all he has to try to build himself up to the public, is the Castellano hit. He was solely a made guy only. He wasn't in John's inner circle. He wasn't close to Jeannie Gotti. He wasn't close to Johnny Koenig. He wasn't close to Tony Roach. He wasn't close to Joey Scopo, although Joey Scopo was the acting boss of the Colombo family, becomes, and Ralphie Scopo, his father. He had no friendships with them. And they were Colombo guys. He had no friendships with them, but Joey was very close and grew up with the Gottis. So when you're talking about hitting a sitting boss, John did not trust Sammy in those conversations. He trusted Frankie. Did Frankie repeat some of these conversations to Sammy? Yeah, probably. That's probably exactly what happened. But Sammy was only a made guy at the time. He's trying to make himself out to the public like he was John's underboss at that time. I was with John in the car. I drove past the body. It's impossible he drove past that body in Manhattan on 40, I believe it's, we always go through the Sparks. I believe it's 46th Street or 44th Street. Sparks is between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. But it's impossible. You couldn't even get past there if you wanted to during Christmas. And with a body laying in the street, you didn't drive past there. So these are complete lies. Nobody's questioning them.
If Senior was sitting with us right now, how would he describe Sammy Gravano?
He described him to me at the wake I said in Brooklyn. He looked at me because I said hello to Sammy and I was small talking with him. And Sammy said, same thing. Sammy didn't really know me. I was part of John's crew. People don't understand. There's hundreds of us. And we say hello and goodbye. Unless you have business with them, you don't talk to them. It's hello and goodbye unless you're talking some small talk about a football game, a baseball game or something. But John made it very specific to me. I do not want you talking to him again. And I didn't really understand it. And I'm wondering why he didn't want me sitting there talking to him. And then I understood later on because he made some comments basically saying to me, if this guy's got to go, I don't want you friendly with him. He didn't say those words directly, but that's what he's saying, that you're going to have to kill this guy. So he wanted to make sure I never got friendly with a guy, so you wouldn't have to worry about ever getting the order to kill the guy. It wouldn't bother you at the least. You'd just kill him. No hesitation. Now, Sammy can try to elevate himself in John's mind, but if John had respect for Johnny Koenig, I never seen Johnny Koenig carry an umbrella from him. And I don't mean that. I joke about it at times. I made fun of him. But I'm not saying this to be sarcastic towards him right now. He wouldn't even think of asking Johnny Koenig to do that, and Johnny Koenig would never do it. He would laugh at him and throw the umbrella at him if somebody knew the way Johnny was. He was a different relationship with Senior. But when Senior needed to kill somebody, he would have told Angelo Ruggiero, right? He would have told Johnny Koenig. He would have told his brother, even though they'd argue with each other. They were brothers. He would have told his inner circle, and Sammy wasn't part of that inner circle. And there's no way he would trust his life in the hands of a guy that only has one murder under his belt. He was a shooter once.
So you believe Sammy only shot one person?
No, I know he did. It's in the court records. It's not me just making it up.
Which court records, if you
when
want
he
to
testified, that he admitted he only killed one person by his own hand. The problem is he's deluding himself into telling people he's good at killing. I'm a good murderer. And then he went after me and said, I'm embellishing. I don't need to embellish. I rap off a list of names I've done things to. And it's not in a bragging way. It's just that's what I did. That's what John had me around for. That's what I was around his son for. And there's enough people and enough names and enough agents that have been on stages and talking that this is very easy to find out. Is he lying or is he not? Well, I've been on stages with the head of the Gambino squad, and I talked to a group of kids with Phil Scala. I also talked on stage with you, with Ted Otto. These guys know exactly what's accurate and what isn't accurate. So when they talk about by your own hand, I've said name after name of people I shot, where I shot them, in the head, in the chest, baseball batted guys and killed them, put them into comas. I've said it over by name, by location, by date. I don't need to embellish from 30 to 40, right? Because those are the numbers for me. Now, Sammy has never directly, he'll never say with you, where you can directly ask him these questions. And so I say he's a fraud in that manner. Was he involved in a mob? Yeah. Was he a made guy? Yes. Did they elevate him after the hit? Yes. Because he had nowhere to go after that hit. He was involved in those conversations with Frankie DeChico. When Frankie gets blown up, John knows that he's got to keep Sammy close to him because he doesn't trust him. He also knows that he's weak, that he may try to set him up if he lets him stray somewhere else. So he pulls him closer. This is one of the most intelligent moves John made. Now you got him on your lap. You kill him when you want. You can abuse him the way you did. You can make him carry umbrellas. You can make him do anything you want, like a trick, like a monkey. No different than Sammy does now when he puts certain guys on the show with him. He manipulates them. And I'm going to say, sadly, because I like Anthony Ruggiero, I'm the one that brought him into this genre. The same way I brought Sammy into this genre. The same way I brought in the Bobby from Boston into this genre. The same way I brought Anthony Aralata into this genre. The same way I brought Gene Borello in this genre. I basically brought them all in. So any of these
Can
guys...
I add, also, you brought them in with the intentions of helping them, giving them a platform to better their lives.
Yeah.
Now what they did is what they did.
Yeah. But the problem with most of these guys, and excluding Anthony Aralata, because I like Anthony, and Anthony never did anything to me in a betrayal way. Anthony Ruggiero, I told him come in because I grew up around them. And his father was a serious killer, serious guy that didn't go to jail, would have became one of the bosses, or the boss of the family probably. But he went to prison. Now, I know why Anthony went on Sammy's show, but Sammy only uses these guys because he's out of material. He's got to justify and make himself look like he brings these guys on, and they kind of justify whatever he says. And they're not being their own men and discussing Sammy will never want to sit with me because I'll call him out. And I'll sit here and I'll tell factual stories about the guy. And I don't like to use the word Fat Sal because that's his nickname in the mob. Sal's very intelligent, money maker. He was one of the guys that was setting up to hit Sammy. Sammy tells that story in Arizona, and he completely changes the factual stories of what Sal did. And Sal's way, way too intelligent for him. Sal's the one that started all these guys in the bank robbery business. He taught them all how to rob banks, so the people that don't know. And Sal's intelligent moneymaker legitimately in any business he goes in. Food business, car business, whatever he touches, he's a sharp guy. He's a moneymaker.
When's the last time you spoke to Sammy?
Oh, months ago after we had the falling out. We had a falling out for one reason. He came to me and asked me for help with the construction.
When
business.
was this exactly?
Oh, when he first got out.
So,
let me reframe that. While he was in jail, he reached out to me and asked for help. He asked
but
for
like
help.
what year? About?
Oh, I don't remember. Now it's years ago. It's when I did Value Entertainment, right?
Oh, so
prior
like
to
6,
that.
7 years ago. Maybe.
Yeah. He was in prison still. He was coming
reached
home.
out,
He was
and what'd he
worried.
say?
He wanted to know about this business and how we can get in it, and maybe we could do things together. And can you help me get a lawyer? And I got him a lawyer. And then he asked for my number, and then he was calling me. Then he got in touch with one of my friends that was in his crew, was also a made guy, who I'm very tight with. And he said, we got to meet. Let's all meet. Let's talk about it. And he was calling me constantly. I mean, I'm talking about constantly, 3 and 4 times a day, trying to get into the construction industry, trying to get something going where he can make money. He was penniless. He reached out. Nobody would help him. And he asked for help. He has help, like I said, with the attorney to get in his business, and then he asked for money. And then he reached out to Albanian guys, and he kept asking me, can you talk to him? And most of them didn't want anything to do with him. And he said to me, I said, listen, he wants to think, we don't want nothing to do, and we can't trust him. So they said, we don't care what his life was in the mob. They just don't trust him because he has a history of betraying people. So I know that too. I said that. I says, I always joked about this. I says, he hasn't been loyal to anything in his life. So what's going to make him be loyal to me?
So, okay. So I just want to keep it structured so people can get an understanding. He reaches out to you while he's in jail. He says, okay, when I'm out, how could I get involved?
Well, I get him a lawyer while he's in.
You get him a lawyer. He says maybe we can do some of the podcast, entertainment, whatever stuff. Then he gets out. Do you know what year he gets out?
Value Entertainment asked for his number too, and I said, I'll give it to you. That's how we got in touch with him.
Oh,
when I was doing the show.
Okay, so Patrick Bet David.
Asked me when I was at the show, when we were off the air. Yeah.
And then when's the next time you speak to him? Do you remember?
Oh, he's every day.
When he's out?
Yeah, he called me every day.
Do we know when he got out?
I don't remember. You can Google it.
Well, okay, we'll look at that after. And then when he's out, you go and meet him.
No, he asks for me to fly to Arizona with my friend. He's driving us crazy to fly there. And
because he couldn't leave Arizona.
He couldn't leave, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, there's no upside for me to go there. There's nothing he can do for me. Why am I going to fly there? I got my own things going on.
So he got out in September 2017.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't fly out to Arizona. And then he comes to New York?
He comes to Newark Airport.
Okay.
And he wants to do...
That's got to be a couple years later now.
Whatever year it was,
yeah.
2019 maybe.
And what's he say?
And he wants to do shows. And he's got a crew of camera people, and he brings all kinds of armed security with him. And he's bragging about all the armed security because he had somebody that was supporting his show. He found somebody that offered to put up the money and fund him. And he says to me, I'll give you $500 to do his show. And the guy I'm with, I look at him and I laugh. I go, is this guy crazy? He's offering me $500 to do his show.
$500?
I says, yes. If I do the show, I'll do it as a favor to him. But $500 is not what I get paid to do these shows. It's, which is a lot more than that. So we have a little talk, and I can see the ego of Sammy has not changed from what everybody told me about him. And he's in his own mind, he starts believing himself, and this is me thinking to myself, and I tell my friend this. if you want to be the guy you're claiming to be, you shouldn't have never cooperated. But you did. Okay. But if you still want to be that guy, then live here like I do. Don't go hide in another state. All right. So, second. Third, you're talking like you're an underboss. You're not anything. You're not an underboss. You're not a captain. You're not a made guy. You're not a gangster. Those days are over and gone for you. So when he continues this talk, and he's talking to me on the phone, and I could see as the time's going on, the more we're talking on the telephone, he's changed a little bit. And he's talking to me about kids, because I'm doing all the talks at schools. I go, what you should do is talk to these kids in schools and everything. And his answer, and he can deny it or not, which obviously he's going to deny. He says, fuck the kids. If they're too stupid to know and see for themselves, that's on them. And we haven't, this is what causes the argument. And I said to him, you sound like an idiot talking like that. And then he says, watch the way you talk to me. I go, fuck you. Who the fuck are you? Thinking, watch the way I talk. I'll talk to you any way I want. And that's where the conversation went. And then he says, he never called me John. He always called me by my last name. And he goes, Alite, Alite, whatever he calls me. He calls me by my last name. He said, you should watch your mouth, this and that. I go, listen, Sammy, I'm going to tell you about all you guys that you never learn your lessons. Because I seen it in jails and I see it on the street. You just never know which guys you could talk a certain way to. You're too stupid to understand. That's why I've seen so many made guys get their heads kicked in jail. Because they take for granted someone gives a fuck what their title is. And when you're dealing with street guys, and when you're dealing with guys that I grew up in the street, no one cares about it. You will show respect if you're a gentleman, but if you're not a gentleman, you're going to get beat up. So at his age and his size and his sickness and illness, and just be quiet. You don't got guys anymore to do your work. And I told him that, Sammy, you need guys to do your work. I am the guy that did the work for you guys. I says, so you're never going to talk to me that way. I says, instead of doing things with me jointly, right, because that's what we talked about initially, he wouldn't do it because his ego wouldn't let him, because he was scared I'd take the forefront on him. Because especially when they start talking about violence, he can't stay with me and have these conversations because he's not doing them. He might ask the guy to do it, order the guy to do it, pass the message for a guy to do it, but he's not personally doing it. And there's the difference between me and him.
So then when did the money factor come in with this $3,000?
Well, he's broke. So he's constantly asking me for money because he's got no money for somebody. So finally I said, all right, I'll send you $3,000. And now he admits I gave him the $3,000. And he does a thing with Andy that did my Perfect Gangster show. And we're talking about doing another production, all of us. And Andy asked him, can I tape you and ask you questions about John? Because I want to put it on my show. And he says, yeah. And he rambles all about John. If he's an Albanian mafioso, he's a thug and a gangster. And I guess we put it on our Patreon. Everything he said for 45 minutes or an hour. The guy's a straight up killer. He's a gangster. I don't need him to say if I am or aren't. Ex-FBI and law enforcement all know me. They all got on shows with me. And it's very easy for a guy who has any lawyer, active, not active, or regular guy, to pay a lawyer $500 and go get the information and see who's being accurate and who isn't. So the nonsense he's trying to do, again, is because he's insecure, he doesn't want me to be above him as far as the street. As far as the street's concerned, no one cares about titles. Nobody cares. You had the influence of the Gambino family, so it made you feel like you had some balls. You have no guys no more. You're not a gangster. So you got no balls. They got snipped off. Now, the truthful. Now, the difference is I'm Albanian. I could go around this whole world and I know everybody in every country. You guys, you know this because you're on a lot of my pages. You see the interaction between people that know me. From every crew, from every family, from other organizations. They all have respect for me because I didn't do what he did. He could keep saying I did what he did. I don't believe in the life, but I was the one that was betrayed. I sat in a penitentiary in Brazil for years. Well, 60 guys betrayed me, all the mob. Now, I got no qualms after that going back after them. I say it. You want to call me a rat for doing that? All right, that's okay with me too. But I'm not in Arizona. Like, and I joke and I say when I'm mad, I don't live in a cave. But the truth is, he's in Arizona. He doesn't like Arizona. He's a Brooklyn guy. So live in Brooklyn. And if you don't need any guys to protect yourself, then come on back. But you can't play that role with me and talk about me and constantly talk about me, just not use my name when he's doing it. So when you owe me 3,000, you say it. What kind of underboss in the past were you that you're that petty that you can't pay back the $3,000 and you're doing so well, right? So you're looking for this, I guess, for the attention, maybe, I don't know, but you can't pay back $3,000. You're that much of a loan. And then the other thing is, he said, well, they paid me 3,000, so I'd say all those things about John. So now again, you're too stupid to you make a dumb statement like that. So you're that much of a bullshit artist, low life con man that you would go into that whole spiel for 3,000. So you're spineless. So you just again, you can't even have that argument because what kind of monkey are you? Just going to do tricks for $3,000 then? But you know as well as I do, and people that know my history, I don't need him to say anything. There's enough people, there's enough videos, there's enough tapes, there's enough guys that were in jails with me, there's enough law enforcement that have done shows about me to know what's true and what isn't. You know, the difference when these guys are, they're not intelligent. I was a big money maker. I made money all over. I lived in a $10 million estate. I had houses everywhere. I had businesses everywhere. So if you're so successful, then why'd you come out of jail and you move ecstasy? You know, so you're not that guy. You only were that guy when you're around the Gambino family. But that's okay. I'm not judging you. And if that's the case, but stop pretending you're this guy.
Do you think that Sammy would ever come on our show?
No. He asked everybody but me while we were friends. He asked Gene to come on his show. Gene won't do it because he said he wouldn't go around me and do it. He asked Jimmy Calandria to come on the show, and it's the same reason. He asked Anthony Ruziano to come on the show. He tried to get Mikey Scars, and Mikey Scars abuses him on a regular. And, you know, Mikey's not a killer by hand, but Mikey is intelligent. Mike's a smart guy. He's not a dummy. So you're not going to, if you're going to contend with Mikey Scars, he'll beat you from a pulp, from pillar to pillar. He's too smart for you. And Mikey does know the structure and the history of the Mafia a lot better than I know the structure and the history of the Mafia. I'm not a historian. I don't know that stuff. I know some things. I know what I know about our family. I know about the involvement in our crew, you know, and what we did and not we didn't do, you know. So when Sammy talks, there's 302s from guys like Mikey that talk about me being involved in setting up the juries for John Gotti Sr. So I don't have to say anything. These guys already discussed it. It's in the 302s where I'm involved. They discussed also that I was involved. They talked to me about hitting Curtis Lee where I denied it. I said I won't do it. I have nothing to do with it. These are all in their 302s. There's 302s that all these different mob guys that gave me up and associates of the mob, of the Gambino family and other families that gave me up. So there's really nothing to discuss. I ran the street. I was the boss of the street. You know, did they call me a street boss? Yeah, that's what they call me. So what? That and a token will get me on a bus and a train. That the point is, he's trying to compare himself in his own mind of me, but you're not. You need guys to survive on the street. I don't. I was the guy that you and other guys would ask for me to do things. Maybe you personally didn't ask me, but our family did.
Where do you think his insecurity stems from?
His size.
You
I do. He's 5 foot. I think he's about 5'3.5". I don't think he's bigger than that.
And you think that's where it comes? You think that's where it comes from?
Yeah, he's very insecure. Whatever went on in his life growing up, he's an insecure guy. He doesn't just know how to be a decent human being, be a nice guy. Even when he was in jail, everybody complained about him. Guys used to tell him, all different guys that know me, Spanish guys. He doesn't understand. All these guys all know me. All different guys from every crew, from every girl, all know me from the street. We all intermingled in business together. Not like, I wasn't just involved with the Gambino family. I was involved with every gang there was. I'm from the street. I'm from Jamaica Avenue on the street, East New York, South Jamaica. I traveled. I lived in the Philadelphia area. I lived in Florida. I have houses everywhere. I lived out of the country everywhere. I traveled out of the country everywhere. So, when he's talking, here's the thing, they don't know how to assess who they're speaking to. They just don't get it. And this is what makes you tell you he's not that intelligent of a gangster. He's lucky he survived because he had some strong alliance friendships. That he learned to do. He had an alliance with Frankie DeChico, who was a serious, intelligent gangster. And so was his family, Georgie DeChico and his brother Butter were nice guys besides being well respected. And he also aligned with John Gotti Sr., who kept him alive. But when he talks about the Castellano hit especially, he embellishes the shit out of that. And I know firsthand he had nothing to do with that. I shouldn't say nothing. He had something to do with it, but not nowhere near the scene of the killing. He was involved in somewhat of discussions, but not directly with John Gotti Sr. either. And John, later on, needed somebody after Frankie dies, so people in the public understand this. He needed a younger guy that had guys on the street that knew all Frankie's guys that could take that crew and bring them in. Right? Now, he knew Sammy was vulnerable. If John doesn't take him in and tells him, see you later, Sammy ends up in a ditch. They kill him. Genevieve's family kills him. Lucchese family kills him. The Colombo family, half of them hate him already anyway. He's going to get killed. So he had nowhere to go but to go up John's ass. And he doesn't tell that part of the story. And John knew by bringing Sammy closer and making him a skipper, that's what he made him after that. And then Frankie gets blown up. Now he needs a position. And he asked Frankie Locascio to take the position, the Bronx guy, take the position of underboss. Frankie didn't want no part of it. Frankie was very quiet, low-key guy back. So Frankie didn't want no part of it. And it's another thing Sammy does. He acts like Frankie Locascio liked him. Frankie Locascio would have tore his head off if he ever got out of jail and had him killed if he could. So when these are all complete lies and embellishments on Sammy that Frankie Locascio was cursing out John and he was this. He might have been cursing out John like everybody talking nonsense, but he was pretty loyal to John. But he definitely wasn't talking good about Sammy after Sammy was a rat. So this is ridiculous, and whoever buys into this. And how I know, and Of tell everybody how I know, is I'm the guy that was helping Frankie Locascio or trying to help Frankie Locascio get out of jail on that case. I was the guy that was working with the attorneys, trying to help Frankie Locascio get out. So when Sammy talks about that, and I'll tell you one other thing that Sammy lied about. So he's lying about Frankie Locascio, and he was also lying on about the hit of Louis DeBono. He had no idea because he never, ever blames John Gotti Jr. being involved in that hit. He had no idea about that hit. He had no idea the hit teams got changed twice. So there's another embellishment on his part, that he's trying to act like he was involved in all these stories and these hits. He wasn't. So when this guy talks about being involved in certain things, I know he's completely lying. And I never call him out on it because who cares what, some title he keeps trying to sell to people about himself. But again, like most of these guys in these positions, they hide. They don't stay around. Because if you're that killer that you claim you are, right, you wouldn't leave. You wouldn't need nobody. If somebody comes after you, you don't take care of it. Because you're forcing, not that you're going to go looking for them, but if they come for you, your DNA doesn't change. I have the same DNA. And I always say the same thing. I'm Albanian blood. The song that they made where I said I'm on the street when you got to kill, right? I said it for a reason because I was on the street when we had to kill. And the statement I say, yes, I did, is because, yes, I did. I did those things. Now, when Sammy's being checked by Reddit, it's a Polish, I think they emailed us, the company Reddit, and they said that they fact check all the stuff. He lies like crazy. And they asked if I would do an advertisement for him. And I said, maybe I'll do it, not because I'm against Reddit.
Well, Reddit's a wild place in general, but I think what I know for you personally is that you've never spoken about Sammy. And it's always been a subject that we've avoided in a lot of ways just because we didn't want to really address it and give the attention.
Let me just tell you one thing. Just let's address one thing. One simple thing. Why wouldn't he pay back the $3,000? He told everybody he owes it. Just that.
Yeah, why doesn't he pay back $3,000 right now?
I don't know.
He has your phone number.
He doesn't got to give it to me. He can give it to anybody. He can text somebody and say give it to his lawyer. He knows Doug Anton. He could give it to Gene Borello. He stays in touch with him. So give it to him and he'll give it to me. But why aren't you paying it back?
I think he should just give you the $3,000 back, since he has so much
I'm
money.
showing you the quality of the man by 3,000, like the
Yeah, I
Bronx
know.
Tale. You give him 20, it's worth not having him, right? For $3,000, you're supposed to be this. You're trying to claim you're this big shot. You're the successful, high-ranking, cooperator, whatever you are, and you can't pay 3,000, or you don't want to pay 3,000, because if he said on a show,
But do you think he's trying to stiff you, or he's broke?
I'm not sure how much money he has. I don't think he has much money, from what I understand. But I don't care
Yeah,
if
but
he
3,000.
Either way, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have an excuse not to pay it back. It doesn't matter how broke he is, or it doesn't matter how successful he is. Pay back the $3,000. It's like a classless bum. So if you can't pay back 3,000, or you say you took 3,000 just to bullshit and lie, either way, you fuck yourself the way you talk. So it's something that, and he used to call my friend on a constant basis that knew him. And my friend said he was a decent guy before. Maybe he was. I didn't know him back then. But I know one thing. He's an old guy that has nothing in his life but to pretend this stuff. To go like he did on, what was the show we did? Today's show, the morning show?
He won a morning show?
What was that show we did? And we did at the other studio.
That we did? Oh, we were on Good Morning America.
Good Morning America, right? He was on Good Morning America. He's showing pictures and albums of a hit of Paul Castellano like it was a good thing. This is all he has in his life. He actually hangs up like they're gold records of something. But he didn't do the hit. I know the guys who did the hit, right? I know them personally. I know who did it. I know who the shooters were. Well, it doesn't, but and I've said it before on shows, and at this point it doesn't matter. But it ain't him. He was nowhere near it. He's blocks away. This is what he tries to take the claim and fame for, things like this. That you're not there. I was in prison when we talked about this on the other show. I was in prison when I ordered a hit. I wasn't there. I ordered it. So what? I says, that's not being there. And they, you get indicted for it. Yeah, I did get indicted for it. But I ordered a hit. But on most of these things, I am the guy doing the work. So when somebody like him talks to me that way, yeah. Do I get offended? Yeah, because to me, you're a fucking coward. You're not on the front lines. You're a General Milley. General Milley's got all those stripes and all those bars. He never seen a day in his life. You're not John Tigg. You're General Milley. You're a bureaucrat. That's what he was, a bureaucrat. You want to talk about, he's done some shows from what I understand. And I swear, I don't even watch our shows. So I do them and I don't really watch them. But he talks about doing some robberies. Now, there's guys like Ronnie Turchi from Philadelphia, use him. He did my book, International Mafia. It ain't me telling the story. Ronnie tells the story. I walk into a room full of Jamaicans that have guns. And I walk through the door by myself until they follow in after me. But there's armed robberies. I did plenty of them. So the difference is he tells these ridiculous stories one after another, and no one's calling him out on them. So yeah, it's time somebody calls him out. Now Sal knows because he was around. He's one of the guys that was setting up the hit of Sammy. So why this guy's talking like none of us are around, like we don't know what went on in the past, and he hasn't stopped and he hasn't paid back that 3,000. Yeah, he annoyed the shit out of me. Pay back the 3,000. Matter of fact, I don't want it that bad. I'll burn it. It's just the point that he's not paying back the 3,000. He's that kind of a bum. I mean, I don't even know what word to use on a guy. So when factually check. Let's find out. It's easy to. Let me tell you something too, so people misconstrued some of the things I'm saying. It ain't a big deal about shooting somebody. I put myself in harm's way all the time. I went on a lot of these things by myself, or 4 guys against me, or when I got stabbed up, I went against 5 guys. It's the idea that I always put myself in that danger, and I put myself out there. No different the way I live today. I don't leave. I live right here. So if there's any past of anybody, of people I hurt, killed, shot, stabbed, or battered, I'm around. He's hiding. So if you're that guy you're trying to say you are, why are you hiding? Why did you come with armed security to come see me?
Do you think if he called you today and he was like, hey, look, I want to make amends?
Never. I'll stop you right there. Never. You know why? There is nothing good that come out of that guy. When a guy's a snake, he's a snake. So he's not going to change. He hasn't changed now. He's an old man. He hasn't changed. He's bitten the hand of every friend he ever had. Anybody who's ever helped him in his life, he's done nothing but betray him, including family members of his. So this is him. He can pretend anything he wants, but he's not a good guy. And at the beginning, my friend asked me to help him, so I helped him. And as a favor to my friend. And my friend's a great guy, one of the best around, and just a gentleman. But he's not. And so there's nothing that'll come out. And when a guy, this ain't like the old days when we're in a mob and, you're going to kill somebody, right, or hurt somebody. We're not doing that. But why would I have anything to do with him? He can't do nothing for me. I don't need him for nothing. I have plenty of friends. So, there's nothing to say to him anymore at all, actually.
Why do you think, I mean, I understand why people are, infatuated by his quote story, but why do you think like people have loved his story? Is it just like he romanticized it? Like, I don't know.
Listen, I don't think they care if it's true or not, most of them.
Yeah.
I think they just listen to it because it's a story and he's a storyteller. And, he doesn't tell the story anyway. It's prompted, by the way. He reads off a prompter and all that nonsense and whatever. So, listen, I'm not begrudging him because he learned how to make some money off this. Whatever, you can make money off it. But what I will begrudge him for is when you don't pay me back, when you're taking shots at me constantly, when you're hiding and taking shots, and then you try to compare yourself on the street with me. I'm sorry, you might have a title, but that's about it. You ain't got no balls, and you can bullshit anybody else about having balls, but all those people that listen to him and watch him, why doesn't anybody ask him? Why didn't you ever do nothing to Gas Pipe if you were never scared of him? You talk about Joe Watts. Why didn't you ever do anything to Joe Watts? You didn't do anything. Why didn't you revenge Bobby Borriello's murder? Why didn't you revenge Eddie Leno's murder? Why didn't you revenge Little Anthony's murder? Why didn't you revenge Joey Scopo's murder? Why didn't you revenge Frankie DeChico, your best friend that got blown up? You didn't revenge any of them. Why not? You know why? Because he would have to call somebody like me or ask John to call me because he didn't have the ability to call me directly. I wasn't with him. I was with them. So he would have to go through them because otherwise it ain't getting done. So, an organization is strong because you have different points of the organization that makes them strong. But he's not one of the points of, like, he's trying to make it sound like he's the one going out there doing the work. You had nothing to do with the hit team. You didn't have nothing to do with Tony or John, and I'll say their first names, Tony or John or Jeannie or any of them. You had nothing to do with these guys, so you ain't arranging shit with them. You ain't telling them nothing. You ain't anything to them. Matter of fact, if it was up to them, they would have killed you too. So there was no trust, there was no love. None of them guys really liked him. So when he tells these stories or when he says Alite was an Albanian, no, I'm an Albanian that on Saturday there was a spot at the table for me like any other recognized Maine guy. I sat at that table and had dinner. And you couldn't sit there unless John gave you a seat there. So when they talk this nonsense, and that's their only way they can try to like scapegoat. He doesn't know because he's Albanian, he's not Italian. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There's the difference between a smart guy like a Lucky Luciano who brought in anybody that was a gangster, was tough, into an organization. And trust him. But Sammy doesn't understand. If John doesn't die or doesn't go to jail, I was the Albanian that was going to kill him. I'm the guy that was going to make sure that Sammy didn't ever talk. So he can believe it, not believe it. I really don't care. But when he talks about putting in work, he did nothing. He did hardly nothing, anything at all in 40-something years. And the last time he shot anybody was 46 years ago. But going back to those records that he puts up in the wall, that ain't his hit. That was John's hit with the team of guys that John put together. He just happened to be a guy that was tangled in it. And John wanted to make sure he was around somewhere, right? So he was trapped in that hit also. And he wouldn't rat because he figured you're going to put yourself down. Well, rules changed and the laws changed with the RICO, and things became extremely different. And Sammy found a way out, and whatever. That's fine. Whatever, he found a way out to get out of jail. But the rest of it is he's changing history. And from what I understand, I don't watch Mikey Scars' shows, and I don't watch. And I heard Mikey Scars goes after him pretty good. So I don't know if he covered any of this, but I don't know if he fires back at Mikey either. And Anthony Ruggiano was a nice guy. He's just harmless, and he used him. He put him on the show, and does it bother me that Anthony went on? Of course it does. He was my friend, and it goes back to loyalty. He knows that the guy owes me money. He knows the guy talks nonsense, And if you're gonna go on there, you should have told him, listen, pay back the money, and I ain't going on the show, or and don't talk about the guy because you don't know anything you're talking about.
Do you, I mean, like, even with a guy like Ruggiano, like, do you feel like you could forgive him?
Yeah, I mean, I got.
It's not personal like that.
No,
it's just
no.
more.
Anthony's a nice guy. I have nothing against Anthony. I'm just saying I wouldn't do what they do. I wouldn't do it. I would never go on. If somebody had something to do with Anthony, we're friends forever. I was very friendly. Since I'm a little baby, I'm around with them.
For people that are like watching, that are like, oh, like, I don't know if I believe John, yada yada. What are like the documents specifically that you talk about?
What do you have to believe? Exactly. He owes me $3,000. That's the point. So he's got to pay me the $3,000. Right. That's the first thing. Second, he lives in Arizona. He doesn't live here. I live here. Second. Third, Frankie Locascio, I was helping him try to get out of jail, not him. He put him in jail. He ratted on him. So third, unless you're retarded, you're going to believe that. Four, my lawyer, Doug Anton, I gave it to him. He was in prison. I gave him to his daughter. They met him for me. I mean, I can list this very thing. Believe me about what? That I did what I did? Phil Scala did talks with me. Go watch the talk he did with me in Hackensack. He says it straight out. Ted Otto was on stage with us. So he was an ex-FBI guy involved in the cases that I was hammered for. And all the shootings I do, I say by names. So, I don't know what else you can do at this point. And who doesn't believe it, who cares?
What was that document that you said that...
302s?
No, that Sammy admitted to only killing one person?
Yeah, in open court, anybody could get that. That's court documents. I don't think he's going to deny that. I mean, I don't know if he tries to. I mean, I forget. It's not just the bat. It's the jails. He didn't do 3 years in a Brazilian penitentiary like I did, with all the guys that's still friends with me. He didn't. He gave it up while he was in the pen. I was in the pen. They were giving me up. It's a completely difference. He was in and gave them up. I was being betrayed. I was sitting in a penitentiary while 60 guys were going in against me, one after another. So he can switch that story all he wants. When it's convenient for them, I'm only Albanian. It's okay to fuck me and give me up. But I'm the one that's saying, you're never going to get away with fucking me because I'll fuck you back. So no different than I'm saying now. I'm not calling him in any kind of name. I'm just talking honestly the truth. If he wants to go step by step on everything we talk about today, I will. You want to talk about the Louis DeBono murder? You know nothing about it. You have no idea about it because you didn't implicate Junior in it. And Junior was a skipper. It was his first hit as a skipper, putting us on that hit. And those orders came from his father. So you don't know that. And you didn't know that Bobby Borriello was in those conversations with us. And you didn't know that his guy, Stevie and Joey, was supposed to do the hit originally with me, and they changed the hit team. You didn't know that Louis DeBono was supposed to be a hit in Atlantic City. You didn't know any of this. You're lying. You're a fucking liar. And if John was still alive, he'd probably get an appeal to get out on all these lies. And I'm not saying any of us are innocent. I'm not innocent for anything I did. John's not innocent. I'm just saying this guy lied. And, and that's what he did. He lied about that hit, and he lied about the Castellano hit. He was maybe 5 blocks away. Well, you didn't go past. It's impossible to go past that on any day. Spark Steakhouse, you can't even get past there. Forget about going past there if there's a body laying half in the street. They're not happening. With the crowds of people during Christmas, forget it. It's bullshit. So that's another story. And you was nowhere near. You didn't have the gun in your hand. You were nowhere near You were nowhere near the body, and that's the only thing he has to live off of. Besides that, I don't think he shot anybody since the early 80s or something, or 70s. So, this is what they sell, these bullshit stories to
I
kids.
think we need to. I think you should look like directly in the camera and invite him on if he wants to debate it.
Tom Fords. He ain't gonna come. I can invite him I'll invite him every day. Come on, and we'll go step by step and tell me, just where you are, and you let me know if you want to move back to Brooklyn. I'll find your apartment. Hey, where's our studio right now?
Oh, we can't.
No, I'm just saying. But we're in Brooklyn, aren't we?
We're in Brooklyn.
Okay. So, and my house, I give the address all the time on shows. I'm not him. I say it all the time. They don't like that they're cowards, in my opinion. I'm not. I says, and that's it. And, when someone says anything, I do the same thing all the time. I'm proud to be Albanian. So it's Albanian blood. I'll say it all the time. We have a different mentality.
Do you think he's living, like, because I think there's also something about you where you acknowledge the hurt and the negative that you did in the past, right? And you're very open about it. And I think that's your way of now moving forward, right? And changing your life. Do you think that he still lives in a shame state?
He glorifies nonsense. That's my whole point. How do you have a record up of, first of all, it has nothing to do with you, the Paul Castellano hit. You keep trying to take credit for it. But as a gangster, you're trying to take credit for it as a good thing. You got a record up. You're not Elvis Presley. What's the record up there for? Because the only thing he has in life is that. He's not doing what I do. He's not traveling to Germany, and he's not the cover of Life magazine. He's not trying to help the Albanian community. He's not trying to talk about Kosovo war and the genocide. He's not doing anything and doing lectures at schools and for kids. He's not doing any of those things. He doesn't do anything positive, and his message is not positive. Everything's about glorifying Sammy Gravano. He loves himself. At night, he kisses himself goodnight. He puts a mirror in front of his face and he kisses himself. Ain't nobody else going to kiss him. And the point is, when he's glorifying nonsense, and I'm not, right? So, and I'm here, he's not. So when he wants to sit here, he'll lose me after the first shooting, because if he says to me about violence, I didn't stop mixing it up with guns, with bats, with knives, with hands, with everything, in jail, out of jail. Everybody knows there's enough people that got on. Yancey got up here, and from prison. How many guys out of prison came up that know me from prisons? Lee Whitley from Canada. They all, so it's not about that. It's not about glorifying that. It's about they're full of shit. They lie. They try to bullshit themselves and kids, and they don't have anything outside of this.
It's a weird, it's a strange tactic.
It's because they don't see themselves.
Yeah.
They have nothing else.
I do think it's
we talk
ultimately
about
it's pretty sad, right? Like I know we get, like, we're talking about it and it bothers you, but whatever. It's not like you lose sleep.
No sleep over
but
it.
it's still it's a pretty low level when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, right? To hold on to like a negative thing that you did 40 years ago. That's like your whole life image now.
And listen, and the thing is, says he's a mafioso underboss to the day he dies. This is crazy talk. This is like an infant talking that's wearing cowboy and Indian outfits when they're 5 years old. I mean, it's really crazy talk. And he's really lucky. He's lucky the guy he put away for life and died.
Who?
John Gotti.
Oh.
He's lucky that those guys and his family aren't that type of guys to go get him. Because if it was in me or an Albanian community, it'd stop at nothing to kill him. We got a completely different mentality. Arizona or anywhere else ain't far enough. You would think at his age, and I've said this about different politicians, we travel all over the place, right? We're every country. We're always vacationing somewhere, going somewhere, enjoying our lives. You would think at his age he'd get on a plane and go somewhere. But I'm going to tell you why he don't go. Because he knows if he goes out of this country, it's a lot easier to kill him. And there'll be guys that'll line up if they find out where he is, and they'll get him outside this country. He knows that. But he pretends like he doesn't know that. So he's kind of living in a prison within a prison, because you love Brooklyn. You say it all the time. You love the city. You love Brooklyn. So I've heard him say it a million times, right? So why are you living in Arizona then? What's your reasoning? So, and this is, he attacked, he put in, and I'll tell you what really infuriated me because I'm patriotic. He abused and used the Albanians as a attack point after me. So that's why I'm approaching this for two reasons. One, because you won't pay back that $3,000, and to me it's a funny thing that you'd rather get abused constantly on a show when you admitted you owed the 3,000. So what could your argument be? All right, here's your 3,000. That's what I would do. Say, here's your fucking 3,000. Now don't mention me anymore. That's first. Second, you shouldn't attack me about what was reality in our past and what wasn't. And third, you're not a fucking underboss. This is not like Cowboys and Indians, like you're 5 years old. That's way gone. You're talking about almost 40 years ago, 1985.
Yeah.
It's sad that that's what you're living off of. That's all you talk about is 40 years ago of killing a man that you didn't kill. You got nothing to do with it. You didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Is there any other question you got for
I
me?
don't think so. I think that if anything, there's an open invitation. Like, again, I don't, and there's a reason why we've waited to talk about this, and it's one that, like, giving attention to people that don't deserve it. We just don't really subscribe to that. B, we're not like some clickbaity, like, say rogue things for no reason show or people in general. But I do think that, he has spoken about you, right? He's spoken openly about you. There's been back and forth. We, for a while, didn't, play into it. And then I think that also, when you see somebody just blatantly lying, it can be infuriating. So I think that that's why, you wanted to kind of clear, really more than anything, clear the air. Not to mention he owes you money too, which is like, even if it's not the craziest sum in the world, which he should then just pay you back, it's still a mentality and a principle thing that, like, you still can't pay it back. Like, you still don't do anything about it. You don't care. Like what kind of,
Yeah, he's just, that's what I said when he talks. Listen, unfortunately, my life's past is not going to disappear. So, when he talks nonsense, I'm very, and this, and the government knows this. I got a great memory. When I talk about incidents, I give the date, I give the place, I give the time, I give the name, first name, last name. He can't sit here with me because I can bang out like I did. Ricky Stratton, unfortunately, I shot him in the head on the Interborough Parkway. Right? Georgie Grasso, everybody knows I killed him. I shot him in the head by Shea Stadium, by City Corp. I baseball batted the guy and killed him, put him as a vegetable. He died in front of Old Brother Inn on 78th Street. Kathy's the bartender. She's still around. Kenny Nicole got hit over the head by accident by me also that night and two other
To be
guys.
clear, you're also not glorifying.
No,
these are
terrible, but I'm saying when they talk and they say he's trying to challenge me and say, no, I'm not him. I'm saying these aren't good things, but they happened. Mike Lavigny, I shot him in the chest in protocols on Rockaway Boulevard and Atlantic Avenue. William Boulevard and Atlantic Avenue. These are facts by names. I'm not like him. This guy just wants to brag nonsense. I don't believe in that life. But if you're going to talk to me, of course I'm never going to let somebody like that talk to me. Because you guys in that life in the past needed guys like me to do that. You can keep the title all you want. But now you don't live by yourself. That's the problem. You understand? They can't handle what I can handle. And that's why I travel around the world and enjoy my life. He'll never go do that because he's afraid to do that. No different when he came to Newark Airport. You're not even leaving the airport and you're scared to come without bringing 6 guys with armed security. And then you're talking smack, you're talking nonsense about nonsense. So, yeah, I'm very outspoken because I don't glorify it. I just say this is factual, this is what happened, and that's that. And I can keep going with those names. You know that. I've done it 100 times.
Yeah. I think too, the thing about us is we do try to remain very objective, like over the years, people have tried to start beefs with us or you and other people, right? I mean, even a great example is like, well, we won't even get into that, maybe for another show, but like people want to start, they want to see you beef with people, and the truth is that you haven't, and you've stayed
No,
very
I
quiet.
won't. I won't. And I like Anthony Ruggiano, and I know why he brought him on there. You think he wants to bring guys he thinks he believes he can control and he can have his narrative. And Anthony's a nice guy. He's not a violent guy. That's not, and that's a good thing. So what? He's not a violent guy. I mean, that's okay. But Sammy tries to exploit that and use them at the level that he wants to use them at. So I think it's a big mistake that he went there. I wouldn't have went on. And truthfully, am I mad at Anthony? No. Am I? You're supposed to be my friend. I wouldn't have did it. Yeah. Same with any of these other. The only, like I said, Mikey Scars is not a violent guy. He'll say he's not a violent guy. That Mike will say. But Mike is a very intelligent guy. You're not gonna outspeak him. You're not gonna. Yeah. Listen, I don't know if Mike will ever sit across from him. I wouldn't see the benefit of why he would, but you can't. Mike was very knowledgeable. He was, a captain. He was concierge. Again, not violent. That wasn't his thing. But knowledgeable, yes. He's knowledgeable on the street. So, they could say what they want, but, when he wants to compare himself as far as the history of what I did and what he did, come on, it's night and day. This guy's a joke.
I have a question. Did he reach out when your daughter passed?
No.
There you go. I mean, think about it, right? Like in a dire situation where he asks you for $3,000, you give it to him. But when one of the saddest moments of your life, he doesn't text you. You know what I mean? That I think kind of sums it up right there. That's kind of all that needs to be said.
Exactly. There's the class level of the guy.
And speaking of, there's other people, and we won't talk about them, right? Who in the past maybe a little here, there, whatever, big names. But when in a big moment in your life, they reached out and they were there and they showed love.
Louis Albano passed away. Not back and forth. He was saying things, whatever. I said my condolences on here for him, and I meant it. You don't want to talk ill against somebody and their family. Somebody just died. You don't. And even though he wasn't nothing to me as far as that, but you feel bad. The guy lost his life.
Sure.
He's gone. He had kids. He had grandkids. It's a terrible thing, right? So. At least I'll say it, condolence to him. Years ago, I had beef with Louis Arricchio in jail, out of jail, and he passed away, and the same thing. And later on, we mended our things, and I pass a condolence for him. But when these guys, they just show what they are. They're never going to change. They got too much insecurity, and their egos are ridiculous. They're so. It's incredible what they think of themselves. They so grandeur thoughts of themselves. They're not even close to being accurate. So that's the problem. They just narcissistic to another level. It's just incredible the way they think.
Is there anything else you wanna add on this episode?
Yeah, give him a PO box where you could send out my 3,000.
Yeah, I'll send you. Hey, reach out to me. How about this, Sammy? I challenge you in a very calm way. If you want to come on the show and talk to us, we'll be very open and objective. And that I really mean it. Yeah. Like, we're not here to, like, really bash anybody. I think it's a very interesting conversation, especially in the scope of this genre. So that's the first thing. So open invite always, right? First thing. And the second thing is, I think it would be very nice if he did send you the $3,000 that he owes you. And if you would like to send it to me to give to John, I can send you my address, or I can figure it out if you don't want to communicate directly. And I'll happily give it to John. But yeah, other than that, I think, it's pretty clear, the stance, and the facts are the facts. And I think, again, it's. If
you ever want to move back to Brooklyn, I'll help you find an apartment.
Damn. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, join our Patreon. For as little as $8 a month, you get bonus content, early access. You can call into the show if you have any questions for John. He's doing his Albanian love gesture, sheepe. And we appreciate all your support as always, and we will see you guys next week.
I got to say one thing, and my condolences to the police officer that died in Kosovo, was gunned down by terrorists, and my love always for our country and for the guys that killed the terrorists there.
Man, See you guys next week.
See you next week.